All right, it's 6 o'clock. Are we ready? Tanya said it all. Start with the thank you, Tanya.
We test that people can hear you.
Greetings to you too. Sorry. It's 6 o'clock. We'll begin with public comment. It's as is our practice. Please approach and sit in one of the chairs. We're starting with the owl this evening. And Minuteman will be joining us shortly, and will hopefully be able to come online. So speak to the.
Could we just double check if they can hear us?
Yeah, let's do that.
The audio is not great.
Ask somebody to raise their hand, maybe. Tracy, can you hear us okay?
I can hear Megan better than I can hear you.
So we're gonna turn you up. Thank you.
I can.
Our tech support.
Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Sorry. Okay. I can hear Megan better than I can hear you. You're a little bit fuzzy.
That's not unusual.
Okay. Well, I think everybody's fuzzy except for Megan. Maybe she's closest. I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah, she is a little closer, but I'll try to speak up and hopefully
Loudest.
you won't have to do too much tech afterwards. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Is that any better? I hope it's better. Okay, we'll try. All right, Tanya.
Okay,
Please.
hi, Tanya Gale, 62 Prescott Road. Actually, Mark Season's greetings is all I did want to say. I just wanted to say it anyway to all, wish everyone happy season and wonderful new year. And Mark, thank you for all of you, thank you for your service. But Mark, also, we're sad that you can't stay another term, but thank you. So.
Thank you very much. Anyone else this evening? All right, we'll dive right in then. But seriously, happy holidays to everybody. This is our last meeting for 2025. I'm looking forward to it. I want to do especially just mention thanks to the town staff. It occurred to me that April 19th seems like kind of a little ways away, and we're moving on to other things, but it was a huge lift this year, and as 2025 comes to a close, I just definitely wanted to express my appreciation. All right, the consent agenda.
Yes, just before I make the motion, does anyone have any questions on the minutes? Everyone's had a chance to.
Sorry, this is November 8th.
I'm sorry.
I think it's December.
It's December.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just want to be clear,
no,
because it's
good catch.
in this agenda, it says
Yeah.
November. So.
Right, thank you. So we're the December 8th, and I had one, I believe there was a date that was blank in the executive session minutes, and I know what that date is now. So, I'm basically okay with those minutes, and I'm happy to add the date. It was the date of the memo that we were discussing.
That's fine.
Okay, and I'll just add that offline, and we can approve those.
Okay, so I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda with the comments that we just discussed.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
And I guess it's worth noting, there was a very large donation from the Concord Public Library Corporation for the archiving work, so that's wonderful.
Yes.
Great.
Absolutely. And if it's okay, I just would also like to thank the staff. We're way more caught up on the minutes.
Yeah.
And not only that, I've actually found the minutes to be really
Yes.
well done recently.
Yeah.
So I just want to call that out and thank everybody who's been working on that. Yes, it really has
Yeah.
been really good.
It has,
So
yep.
thank you for that.
Couldn't said it better myself, thanks.
Ready to.
Select board appointment.
Okay, so I'm going to move to approve the following select board appointments. Jeffrey Young of 264 Bedford Street as an associate member of the Historic District Commission for a term to expire on January 1st, 2031. William Hyatt of 1123 Monument Street to the Historic District Commission from associate member to full member, representing the select board with a term from January 1st, 2026 to January 1st, 2031. And reappointments of election workers for a term ending July 31, 2026, as included in the select board meeting packet. And then also Betsy Levinson of 124 Neshoba Road to the Economic Vitality Committee for a term to expire May 31st, 2028. And I can, at the same time,
Can we do that one first? Can we split it?
yes, I can stop there?
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to take
You
a
have
vote on that?
A, B, C, and D.
Right, so I just,
Good.
um,
Yeah,
Kim,
I wanna-
we've asked him to wait on the town manager appointments, is that what you?
Yeah, I just want,
Okay.
yes.
I wanted to make the comment
Yeah.
about those two.
Yes, I just wanna, yes, but I'm hoping we can split.
Well, so I just made a motion for the first set.
Perfect. Second.
Good. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Alright.
Okay, and the town manager appointments, and I just wanted to note that in the packet, for anybody who's interested in reading it, is, a discussion of the process for the Natural Resources Commission appointments. These were on the agenda for last meeting, and we, decided to hold them back because some questions had been raised, and, I found the memo comprehensive and compelling, and, but, if there's any question about that, and.
Not, yeah, I just wanted to sort of clarify, because thank you, Carrie, for putting all that together. Just, I guess we've heard some notes, or I've certainly seen some notes, maybe from people saying, hey, I was interested, I sort of didn't get, called or didn't get interviewed. So I mean, what it looks like is there were some folks who didn't respond back. Is the other issue that there was a couple of folks who sort of put something in after sort of kind of the due dates, if you will? I just want to make sure that.
Yeah, so there were a number of cards that were on file when they were originally pulled. There were a significant number of people that either didn't respond to the initial inquiry to meet to discuss the position, or they weren't available at this time. And I tried to just, those notes that are in the memo, it could be one or it could be multiple. I was trying to keep this as anonymous as
Sure.
possible in terms of reasons why people weren't available. And then there were two individuals that submitted cards later in the process. They were advised by the chair of the NRC, or it was recommended by the chair that they attend the next meeting that was coming up, and then reach out if they were interested, if they remained interested in being appointed. One attended the meeting and did indicate that they were interested, another did not. I think either or both of those individuals have reached out to one or all of you questioning the process. I did see that they were both notified by email by either the chair or the natural resources director. And the chair and the natural resources director went through the candidates, and they did go in order. So they took the people who had been on file for when the cards were pulled first, and they looked at them first and felt that they had a sufficient pool to review. They did select one of those individuals and then made a case for the appointment of Ed Nardi, who would be serving his third term. And the case being that the NRC is a 5-member board with an opportunity for up to 3 associates. There are no associates right now, which is a problem. I think because the NRC, like all boards and committees, they are a regulatory board. They have a lot of very serious work in front of them. There was a concern that when the chair rolls off after her second term in next year, that there would be a real lack of experience with the current membership. And so they made what I felt was a compelling case to reappoint Ed Nardi, an individual who had served on the NRC for 2 full terms, to serve an unexpired term, so about 18 months on the NRC while the other members come up to speed. And so then you know, in a few short months, there'll be an opportunity for another member to be appointed, and there currently is an opportunity for a third associate to be appointed as well, but there isn't a recommendation for that right now.
I just add, so as the liaison to the NRC, when this issue came up, I did additional fact finding, and I think Carrie summarized it quite well. In addition, there was a vacancy when Gary Klein left town, and also Nick Pappas is in a holdover position. So there's some quote unquote urgency in getting these appointments. This is a lot of things before the NRC. So the chair decided to interview the candidates that she had, was satisfied. The late candidates came in, and if others were not qualified, I think she would have proceeded, and I think she communicated quite well with them. So I think your memo captured pretty well, both the need for Ed Nardi and his expertise, plus the need to fill this vacancy quite urgently. And the addition of the associates, I think, is really good, because there'll be people in training that weren't associates in the NRC before, so I think this is beefing up the NRC quite well.
Yeah,
And yes, there'll be other opportunities pretty shortly, because I know that there are terms that expire in
2026.
I think, you know, for any committee where you're so dependent on the knowledge, it's important that we leverage all those associate positions. So I think that's good that we have those in.
yeah, so I mean, appreciate that. I wanted to have the discussion just because I knew it's something that had come up multiple times, so I appreciate that. And let's just, you know, if we can keep those folks in mind as these new as an additional associate, as this new position comes up, that's great. We'll sort of keep them.
I'd like to follow up on 13 and 14 myself, because I have openings that would help.
Oh,
So.
somewhere
I'm scanning it for the personnel board as we speak, and not
I know.
seeing any hope there, but.
And I
I'm
just
still
wanna
looking
put
for
up there-
people for the personnel board if you'd like to create this problem for me.
Tangentially relevant to this is that the chair is also in the process of appointing the new Warner's Pond subcommittee, and so she has her hands full in interviewing those candidates as well. So there's a lot going on with some of the candidates and filling those vacancies. Anyway.
Good, are we ready
Ready
for
for
a motion?
motion?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna move to approve the following town manager appointments with the approval of the select board. Edward Nardi of 29 Academy Lane as a full member of the Natural Resource Commission for a partial term, third term, to expire on May 31st, 2027, and to be exempted from APP 10, section 8B3 term limits. Also Benjamin Nyhouse, 121 Grove Street, as a full member of the Natural Resource Commission for a term to expire May 31st, 2028. Janet Miller of 1647 Main Street as an associate member to the Natural Resource Commission for a partial term to expire May 31st, 2026. Malcolm Bryant of 175 Conant Street as associate member to the Natural Resource Commission for a partial term to expire May 31st, 2026.
Just because people may not be familiar, because we don't do associate memberships that often. Associate memberships are always 1-year terms.
Yeah.
So we're filling it for the remainder of this particular program year, and they're renewable. Okay.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Okay. And carry on with the chair's report as I watch the technology.
Switch.
Possibly switch.
Yes.
Okay. I had a couple of things that I wanted to cover, but primarily, I wanted to put an update about the MCI process on the table. The MCI advisory board has been meeting now regularly, and we have been in dialogue with the Department of Capital Asset Management and Maintenance at the board level, but also through the select board. And the visioning that was done in the spring has been extremely useful in establishing a number of factors related to MCI, specifically what its capacities are with respect to wastewater treatment and what some of those needs are. We were able to take a look at some of the housing capacity and what the implications of some of that housing density might be, as well as its understand in better ways, the dependencies that MCI has on things like the Route 2 Rotary Reconstruction Project. And that was helpful in encouraging the town and Mass DOT to begin collaborating around that. There is still considerable unknowns around what the site may eventually require in terms of demolition and remediation costs. That said, the next step in the process would be to begin to formulate a conceptual plan that takes into account some of the new things that we have also learned along the way that weren't part specifically of the visioning plan input. And those really mostly relate to two additional factors that, had we understood them better, probably would have been envisioning, but we uncovered them along the way. One is that there are significant opportunities for wastewater treatment expansion at the MCI site, which would imply a slightly larger municipal component there, and the ability of the site to potentially support some municipal uses like the DPW was also not really a part of the vision work that agency did for us. So the select board is now looking at how we can initiate a master planning process for the site that incorporates what we learned from the agency visioning process, as well as some of these new factors that we have uncovered across the year, and initiate that process in early 2026. That would refine the vision into a preferred high-level design for the site. It would outline an allocation for usage types. It would involve another round of community input and engagement to make sure that the master plan was well understood, and eventually, well, not eventually, but as a specific output, it would involve a recommendation for zoning regulations that we would be looking to take to town meeting. So we're looking to initiate that process now. There is a dependency that the town's priorities with respect to municipal use need to be understood in a little bit more detail, and that's been part of what we've referred to at this board as the land use working group. And the land use working group is examining three specific options: a municipal consolidation option, a public safety facilities plan, and a Department of Public Works facilities plan. And we understand that that will yield some recommendations for the select board to consider in the end of January timeframe. So given all of that, what we're expecting to do is press pause for about a month or so at the MCI advisory board level, while the select board receives and considers the MCI, the land use working group's input, and we would feed that along with the visioning documents from the MCI advisory board and some of the additional information that I just referred to into a master plan process, which the town would lead, but we would engage with the state through DCAM in as well, so that the output from that would be something that we agree to as a town and see as useful for us, as well as something that the state sees as meeting some of its goals, which primarily boil down to housing and access. So I wanted to outline that at a high level because I know there's been some articles about it in Brit, which we appreciate, and there's been considerable discussion that's been going on around this at a number of our meetings, and I thought it was a good time to outline what our next steps are at a high level. And the select board will be discussing specific communications with the state in our executive session later. That is what I had for the chair's report this evening.
We're gonna break after the town managers
Okay.
report.
Okay,
That's okay.
yeah, any questions? Gary?
All right, I will speak loudly. So I did prepare some written remarks this evening because I have 3 items that I wanted to address of some significance, and then I have some general updates from departments. And so the first I wanted to address the fiscal 27 budget status. The town has received the Finance Committee's final fiscal 27 budget guideline. The 2.5% target reflects an expectation that the town will absorb inflationary pressures through continued optimization and efficiency rather than through programmatic cuts, which will necessitate substantial internal reprioritization. It is important to recognize that this work builds on the significant measures already taken to meet the fiscal 26 guideline, which included reductions totaling 4.74 full-time equivalent positions. Those adjustments were meaningful, and they shape the baseline from which the fiscal 27 budget is built. The fiscal context is cumulative rather than year to year, and while we will continue to pursue optimization wherever feasible, those opportunities are not limitless. Doing so at this level will require careful balancing of priorities and expectations. Nonetheless, the town will adjust its draft operating budget and will submit a final fiscal 27 budget proposal that meets the approved guideline at 2.5%. We remain committed to doing so responsibly and transparently, and welcome continued dialogue with both the Finance Committee and the Select Board as the process advances. The next item that I wanted to make a note about is I want to briefly acknowledge the news article that appeared this past week regarding a lawsuit filed by the town's former chief financial officer. The town is aware of the filing, but we have not yet been formally served. Because this is pending litigation, I am limited what I can share publicly. But I can share that an unofficial copy of the complaint has been provided to the town's insurer, Maya, which is reviewing the matter and has advised that it will assign counsel to defend both the town and me as town manager in this action. The allegations described in this complaint are without merit, and the town will respond through the appropriate legal process. The employment actions referenced in the complaint were taken in good faith, consistent with town policy, and in the best interests of the organization. Town operations continue uninterrupted, and we remain focused on strengthening internal systems and moving the organization forward. And without getting into specific details, the town is actively strengthening its financial systems and controls, and those efforts are proceeding as planned. I also wanted to briefly address questions that may have arisen regarding the fiscal 24 audit. The fiscal 24 independent audit itself is substantially complete. However, the town has not yet received the final management letter. A draft version of that letter was released through a public records request, but it is important to emphasize that it is not final and has not yet been reviewed through the town's established governance process. Concord has an independent financial audit advisory committee composed of residents with professional expertise in finance, accounting, and auditing, whose sole role is to review the audit and management letter and provide an objective summary to the select board. The finance team is working with our external auditor and committee members to schedule that review, and any discussion in advance of the audit committee review would be premature. I would also note that the fiscal 24 fiscal 24 was a highly atypical year for the organization, including the town's conversion to a new financial ERP system and the first year-end close in that system. That context matters in fully understanding the issues identified, several of which were related to timing or timeliness of various activities. Work is already underway to strengthen internal controls, and that work will continue regardless of the final language in the management letter. The town's actions will be further informed by the Financial Audit Advisory Committee's review and recommendations. Would you like me to pause there before I get into updates to departments or?
Yes.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Just thanks for the update, Carrie. I think also, at the light plant meeting this month, it was mentioned they're going through the audit. They're struggling to reconcile with the town. I just didn't, are you plugged into all that too?
Yes.
They're struggling to reconcile. They said we're not able to reconcile our accounts with the town's accounts, was holding up completion of our
Yes,
24 audit, so.
yes, I am aware.
Okay.
I didn't want to make a comment about the budget target. Myself. First, I appreciate the efforts that the town made to present the draft budget to the finance committee. I thought that it was a credible effort. I thought that it was at 2.95%, it was below inflation and represented a good faith effort to maintain level services and also optimize to the extent possible. And I feel like we it's not without cost to do another pass and try to go tighter. And I understand the sentiments that were expressed by the finance committee in there, but I also feel that there was a representation that the guideline was the preliminary guideline was open to an understanding that units were supposed to come back with level services and be as responsible as possible. So I find the ultimate result of the final guideline a little bit puzzling, but I really do appreciate the town's efforts to do that. I think that given the extraordinary efforts that the town staff has made and some of the obstacles that were encountered this year, there was an opportunity to do this once and then move on to other important factors. But thank you for taking on this challenge, and we look forward to seeing what the resulting proposals are.
Our intention would be to bring a revised proposal back to you for your second meeting in January. And I think we're on target for that, but we are, the finance team is working with each of the departments to go through their budgets again. And, we will bring something back, I think, regardless of how anybody feels about the guideline. I've been here for 10 years. The town has met the guideline each of those 10 years. And, we need, from my perspective, we need to be in sync with the guideline, and we can't, not just in the easy years, but in the hard years as well. And this is, we're coming into a hard year.
Yeah.
Carrie, question on the budgeting. Are you still working on the capital budgeting as well?
We are still working on the capital budget. It's certainly the recommendation is not increasing. It's potentially decreasing somewhat, and we would be bringing that back to you at the end of January as well. We did find one item that has traditionally been included in the capital budget year after year, landfill monitoring. And we are pulling that into the operating budget. So we, at 2.5%, we needed to find $151,000. We're finding a couple of other items that we want to pull that into the operating budget. We did find that we don't have any placeholder amount for a special fall town meeting in 26. And we keep talking about that. So that's about $15,000 to $20,000. So we're, our delta right now is a little bit higher than 150, but we will work it, and get it down to 0.
Thank you.
So I did also want to mention, just make a note about the storm response last Friday. We had about 50 power outages in total as a result of the high winds. They were in 8 different areas of town, so that posed a challenge because 50 doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're deployed across town, it's quite a bit. Most of these outages were a result of downed tree limbs. By the end of the evening on Friday, CMLP had restored power to all but one area. The last area was restored early on Saturday morning. We continued with storm cleanup today, and I wanted to thank CMLP, CPW, and our public safety personnel, all of whom worked diligently responding to the storm's outage. I wanted to mention in Public Works that early winter construction activities continue. I think I've mentioned these every week or every 2 weeks. They're continuing the major repair of the stairs and the ramp at Harvey Wheeler, continuing with the stormwater repair at Baker Ave Culvert, and completing the water main line replacement and service line replacements in the Silver Hill neighborhood. They are expecting all 3 of these projects to be completed before construction shuts down for the winter, but that obviously is dependent upon the weather. I also wanted to note that we pushed out some communication, I think it was last week, about a billing issue with water and sewer bills affecting about 700 customers. There was an issue with some programming in the billing system, and there will be credits that are applied to these 700 customers in the next billing period, and any questions should be addressed to our water and sewer office. The library will be closing on Wednesday at 1 o'clock, and then all day on Thursday in observance of the Christmas holiday. Our town offices will be open as usual on Wednesday, the 24th, and then closed for the full day on Thursday, the 25th. On Christmas Day, the Council on Aging will be hosting a coffee and snacks event for any seniors who are interested in participating. And there's more information either on the website or by contacting COA staff. And then the final issue of Concord Currents for calendar year 2025 was released earlier today. When you have a moment, please be sure to review its contents. If you are not already subscribed, please visit the town's webpage to register. More information is found under the Stay Connected button, which is on the upper left-hand side of the homepage. Here you will also find links to our podcast, Civic Concord. Our latest episode features an interview between the Deputy Town Manager and CMLP Director on the time of day rates. You can also access our social media, Facebook and Instagram accounts. And there's also an opportunity to register for our emergency notification system code red if you haven't done it already. So thank you.
I just said one thing. Shortly before this meeting, you sent us a video that Julie
I didn't need to
at Minuteman Media sent, which was a 16-minute excerpt of the coverage of the Fenway Park CCHS versus Lexington football game. Both the long version, the whole coverage, and the 16-minute video were extraordinarily professional and interesting. Just shout out to the whole Minuteman Media. We're so lucky to have them in town, and everybody should get that 16-minute video and watch that. It's really fun.
Yeah, we should send out a news and notice.
That link is actually in Concord Currents.
Great.
And also there's a link to the video on the tree lighting ceremony as well.
Great.
Just another reason to subscribe to Concord Currents.
I think we're just gonna switch over.
And I believe, speaking of the media, we're going to activate the microphones, I guess.
Okay, well, if we're all set, then Mimi, tell us about Pianos on the Town, please.
I'm here with Kate Yoder from the Concord Conservatory, who has a proposal for pianos on the town. So folks will recall that we typically go a 2-phase approach. So this is just for provisional approval of the project coming forward for spring of 2026. So I'll let Kate explain the project.
Hi, thanks for having me this evening. Many of you probably have been to communities or heard of communities that have beautifully painted pianos scattered around their community. Okay. For people, tourists, everyone to come by and play the pianos at will. And so as part of the capstone of our 20th anniversary that we're currently celebrating this year, we would like to embark on this project with collaborators, with other groups within the community to do this project and work with artists and the cultural districts and other organizations where we will place the pianos for the public to play on, as well as have pop-up concerts throughout that period.
So and there's kind of two parts of it, one of getting donated pianos and then engaging artists to decorate them.
That's right, yes.
And then they'd be deployed for a period of time, about 2 weeks?
Yeah, we're talking about two weeks. And so, as Mimi said, it's kind of a two-step process where we have a call for artists to come and submit their proposals for the how they would decorate the pianos, matching them up with a location or an organization, choosing the artists, matching them. And then the second phase would be they're painting them and then deploying them with a big ceremony in June.
And in terms of the locations, have you?
We've talked about, so in West Concord, we're located in West Concord to start. So maybe down at the depot area, the train depot area, maybe one also at the Concord Center Depot area, over on the tourism part of Tourism Center, Middlesex Bank. Maybe if Wright Tavern would allow us to have one over there too as part of it, maybe the museum or the umbrella, but scattered across the community in public places where they're available. And I know that Emerson Hospital is also interested in having one in their place. And we're lucky that we work with a piano moving company that has done this before. And they're one of the biggest movers they are within the Boston area. And they work closely with the Newton organization that has been doing this every year. And as he said, it's an opportunity for pianos that have a year or two left in them to be used and to showcase the community. So he would be able to source the pianos for us and also move all of the pianos for us too. And then we would have volunteer teams that would take care of the pianos during the 2-week period.
So my question was going to be what happens at the end of these pianos either get disposed of or are they stored somewhere or?
So we're talking about, what is the legacy of these pianos? And many communities do it differently. In Newton, they've gone to the Lowell bus station and train station, and they've been put on display up there. Some organizations auction them off. Some make them permanent gifts to organizations in town that can also use the pianos. Some of them get junked. I mean, this is saving many of these pianos for an additional year before they are, disposed of. But we hope to find a home for them and use them for that.
Yeah, they will be out in the elements, so.
Yes.
Who knows what might happen. The pianos will be out in the elements. There were some thoughts of maybe tarps or something if it's really bad, but.
Is that kind of what the volunteers are going to help
Yes.
manage the pianos
Yes.
for the
Yes.
storm weather? Yeah, I was wondering how that
And
was
they'll
gonna
all
work.
be tuned before they go out.
Yeah.
But these aren't pianos that you would normally want to acquire for your own home.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
they're end of life, right?
Yes, they
So,
are.
yes.
They are at their
Yeah,
end.
right.
At their
Will
end
you
of
be
life.
working with the West Concord Cultural District?
Yep.
And the Concord Center?
I already met with the West Concord Cultural District at the
Great.
beginning of the month, met with them, and not yet with the
Concord Center? Yeah,
Yes.
right. And they might actually fund some of this, did I hear that? Or is this all going to be funded with private fundraising?
Probably from private
Private, okay.
fundraising, yes. But we'll work with them to connect us with artists, particularly in
Yeah.
West Concord, where they've done a lot of that with the sidewalk decals and those types of things, and they've learned the best practices for doing that. Our hope is to have a big celebration when the artists are paired with their pianos and their organizations. So that's an opportunity to bring excitement to the project early on. And then again, we hope to bring the 6 or however many pianos we have all together, maybe at the West Concord Depot, where they're all brought together and played together, and then dispersed to their various locations.
We talked about tying in with Porch Fest. 'Cause that's
Also.
the first weekend.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great idea. Really,
thank you.
really good
Are you hearing
idea.
much sponsorship interest, or is it too early yet?
One bank that I've spoken to is in the very early preliminary phase are potentially interested in helping underwrite the project.
One of the good things about this is that it'll make more people aware of the Concord Conservatory of Music.
Yes.
That's one of the, really, because it's a gem that I'm not sure everybody is aware of, so
That is very true,
And-
unfortunately.
it is, it's
We'll be
true,
able to
so,
do a census of all the piano players in town.
Right.
oh, you'll be good. It'll
Yeah,
be good.
thank you,
It'll be
thank
good.
you.
One of them is with us. I'm going to allow a question. Tanya?
Oh, yes. Come to Mike?
Can you play?
Yeah.
She certainly can.
Yeah.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
Hello. Yes, as a pianist, I just want to applaud this effort. I would encourage that. I'm glad it's only in June in terms of the elements I am concerned about. When I see a piano outside in other communities, it's great to have them there, but it's also worrisome about rain and snow. So it would be good to have them covered with tarp. If it rains, it's in June, so it's good weather. Also, again, my feeling is that even with pianos, so I mean, I don't know what at the end of their life means. Either they are in working order or not, and if they are in working order and worthy of presenting and playing music on, then just they should just be taken care of afterwards too. Is my feeling, but it's really a wonderful enterprise. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's sort of it's a wonderful idea, and I love the idea of having music around town. And it would seem that you could organize, not little concerts, but will you have little events sort of around some of the pianos as well?
And the
Right.
plan is to have some regularly scheduled
Okay.
concerts on the different pianos, the different locations that people can look up on the schedule. Also having our own students and faculty perform there as part of that. June, as long as everyone's available, is a terrific time to be able to do that. We're going to be also tying in with Oars, because they're celebrating their 40th. And we're celebrating our 20th. And during their month, they are having different months of celebration. And June is going to be river music. And so we're going to be collaborating with them. And so this will be part of that tie-in
Great
with
synergy.
that.
Great.
Well, it sounds like a wonderful idea.
Yeah, it
Thank you.
does.
Do we have a motion?
Yes, we do. I just didn't know if there was more discussion.
Sounds great.
All right, great. I move to grant provisional approval of the public art proposal, Pianos on the Town.
Great, thank you.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good luck with it. I'm
Yeah,
looking
it's
forward
gonna
to
be
seeing
great.
it.
It's gonna be fun.
Thank you.
Thank you very
A
much.
lot of fun.
Okay, and Mimi, you're still here.
Yeah.
This time about a bench.
Yes. So this is for a proposed bench in front of the Concord Visitor Center. Mary Johnson was one of the primary donors for the Concord Visitor Center. She passed away last year, and her daughter is wanting to do a memorial to recognize her mother's contribution and as a way of kind of people who knew her to be able to sit in front of the visitor center and see her, part of her legacy, and also provide an amenity for ongoing visitors. So the bench style was approved by the HDC, and it is removing a Victorian-style bench, which is like the cast iron and wooden slats. Right now, it's sinking into the ground and is in disrepair. It's probably about 20 years old or so. Removing that bench, that one had been donated. I checked with the archivist, did a bunch of research. The person who, it was a similar memorial bench, and the person who donated originally has also passed away. So the idea is to remove that bench. The plaque will be given to the town archivist to keep on file. So the proposed new bench that the HDC approved is the wooden benches, the same that we did for the 250th. Public Works would install a concrete pad so that the bench won't have suffer the same fate of sinking. And then to be more in compliance with ADA guidelines, there would be a space beside the bench for somebody in a wheelchair to be able to saddle up next to somebody sitting on the bench. If we're able to secure some additional funds, the idea is so it won't look awkward having a weird little space on the side, to be able to do a companion bench, but that's outside the scope of this. This is just for, to accept the gift from Sarah Compton and the installation of that bench.
Okay. Any
It's great.
questions?
I think that'd be a great addition.
Yeah,
See that?
good.
So
Looks great.
I'm happy to make a motion. I move to approve the receipt of a gift of Sarah Compton of up to $3,000, naming of town property in honor of Mary Johnson, installation of the bench in front of the visitor center.
Second.
Just quickly note, Mary Johnson was also the recipient of the Honored Citizen Award at one year, and nominations, I believe, are currently open for this year's
You're right.
Honored Citizen. So if you happen to have somebody who
That's
may-
right.
may be considered for that, please send them in.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, and now we're going to hear from Nate, our town archivist, and about a gift from Lanai.
Thank you all. So in the packet, we had a memo I wrote summarizing. I was approached last month by members of the Concord Nanai Network about a couple of items, a few items that Dr. Susan Curtin was looking to find a home for. And actually, I have the translations. The items are right behind you on the easel and on the windowsill, but these are the English translations. Megan, could you just pass those around if people are interested? This is Holly Kratzley, as many of you know, and she's been part of this process. This is a little unusual for the town archives in that most of the records in the town archives come from our processes, right? The select board generates them, the town departments generate them. But we have collections like a Sister Cities collection that is a town initiative that was voted at town meeting in 1997. And we have a collection that exists that has a lot of documents related to this effort. And items like this that maybe don't fit anywhere else, we like to consider, especially when someone brings them to us and wants to find a nice home for them. So, I sort of reviewed them. I met with members of the Nanai Network. I met with Dr. Susan Curtin, and I think this is a great opportunity to add to this collection. There are, as you likely know, many objects and items of the Nanai gifts around the townhouse, and sort of our medium-term plan is to create a more cohesive exhibit with explanations of these items and a little bit of a timeline and history of the relationship. And these new items would be very much a part of that. So did you want to say a few words? I'm happy to answer questions as well.
And the foreign, there are two things. The foreign minister's commendation is the one, the smaller one, And that was given to Tom Curtin here in the townhouse, in the hearing room on September 10th, 2016. And then the award from the Emperor came and was given to him at his home December 2nd, 2016, just 3 weeks before he passed. But that came from the Emperor, from his palace direct with a courier all the way, hand carried to his house. So this is these are very distinguished things. There is a medal, and the copy of the medal is on the bottom of the larger, that's a drawing of the medal. I think that Dr. Curtin should probably keep the medal in her possession as long as she's alive, and then at that point that would also join the collection. And we're bringing these to you because they obviously exceed the $500 limit because they're priceless. And very, very rare, very few. This is the highest award that any foreigner can get from the Japanese government or from the Emperor direct.
And as another Concord connection, William Wheeler also received this award in 1924 from the Emperor of Japan.
That's right.
That's great. And then I also, if I recall correctly, the idea is that on each of the returning visits from the students from the CNN network, these would be on display while they're here as well, right? Which I think is fantastic. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, and Nate brought out a number of things from the collection this year too to show the students, the delegation.
Whenever the delegations come through, we try and bring out some of our, and they were interested this year actually in just our, select board records and sort of old record books that we used. So it was very interesting.
Well, for those of us that have had the opportunity to visit Nanai's town hall, we know that they maintain an exhibit of gifts that have been given from Concord. And I think it's a great thing that we're mounting the same sort of effort here. And Tom Curtin certainly was absolutely key to establishing that relationship. And so it's really wonderful to have some artifacts that recognize that contribution here. So I would be really pleased to accept the motion.
Yes.
And also, I think Sue Curtin also deserves a lot of recognition as well. She lives in my neighborhood, and when I met her, one of the first things she talked about was Nanai and her relationship with Nanai and how proud she was of the work that she and her husband had done. So she has a lot to do with this as well.
Right. Very active member of the CNN
Very
network.
active member, yes.
Right.
So we should.
Founding member, probably. Okay. So I move to approve the gift of Dr. Susan Curtin to the town of Concord, Town Archives, the Order of the Rising Sun, silver and gold ray bestowed upon Dr. Tom Curtin by the Emperor of Japan.
Second?
Great. Any further comment, questions? Thank you so much for doing this. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Nate.
That's great.
Thank you, Holly. Okay.
Okay, so
Now, are we?
we're going to open and then,
Yeah, we have to open a hearing on the
Okay.
White Tavern.
No, we
Yep.
don't.
We don't.
Yeah,
No, we
so
don't.
just for the record,
continue.
Yeah.
the Wright Tavern application for a liquor license has been withdrawn for the time being. So we're not going to have a
Oh.
hearing.
But I'm not going to open and continue it?
No.
No, they officially
Okay.
withdrew their application today in writing. We had a
Okay.
meeting with them this morning where they just decided in the near term, it's going to be easier for them to do one-day liquor licenses
Okay.
while they continue to build out the inside of the tavern a bit more, and then they're going to resubmit their application.
Okay,
Thank you.
great.
Okay.
So we're going to skip over that and go to a Class 2 licensing for Village Auto Works.
Could we hold for a moment to see what's happened with our technology?
Oh,
Just both of our-
Oh, did someone plug in down there?
Oh, it just poofed.
Oh,
okay.
Connected to MMM.
I know, but
So-
sometime, the last time we did it,
Yeah,
it messed
that's
something
I
up.
can confirm that Zoom is still working. So it's only, we can't see them there, but they can see us.
Clicker.
Zoom looks good, Mark.
I think Ziping is here. Right? Is he here?
Yeah.
Ziping Wang?
Mhm.
This is, yeah. Yeah, he's her.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah, it looks. Okay. Good. Thanks, Shannon, go ahead.
Yeah, so we have Mr. Wang with us. He is applying for a Class 2 used car sale license over at Village Auto Works. Mr. Wang, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, so we are a group of 3 partners. We were a group of people who are very into like servicing cars, working on cars. So at the early this year, we had the opportunity to meet the previous owner at 50 Concord Turnpike, Mr. David Clark, who has been there for I think since like 2009, running like a dealership and service shop. So we had this great opportunity to meet him, greet him, and then with some support from our friends and families, we were able to raise enough funds to push the transaction forward. And so we are trying to work with Mr. David Clark and then see if we can acquire the dealership and then apply a new license and then continue to serve the Concord community. As currently standing, as far as I know about the previous establishment, they have more than 1,000 customers list, and we have like more than 4,000 cars in our system that we're working we have been working on in the past. So we obviously want to keep that rolling. We want to keep working with the the town. We want to keep serving the customer base. We want to keep serving the community, and we're keeping everything as is, and then slowly rolling things forward. Let me know if you have any questions.
I have a question. So it's a repair and a car sales
Yes.
place, right?
It's a service and car dealership.
Yeah, years ago when I went there, it was mostly service
Yes.
and very little sales,
Yes.
right? So do you have any plans to change that?
Not at this time, because like I said, we are a little bit short on fund. We only acquire enough fund to push the transaction over. And as you might be aware, running a dealership is very cash flow heavy because you need to purchase the cars, put down deposit, and then it's very cash flow heavy. So we kind of still intend to focus more on the service side for initially because we just don't have enough fund at the moment to to really expand on the dealership side.
What's the maximum number of cars you could have as on the used car lot?
I believe the previous license granted us like 22 cars.
It's
says
30.
It says
right,
30.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say
Sorry,
30.
That's
yeah.
the maximum.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sorry, I
But
probably-
this is the same license as currently
yeah,
exists.
everything's the same,
Same
right?
business
So
hours, same
so
class of license. We're
New
not
owner.
yeah, we're not
asking
asking
for
more.
something.
It's
It's a
the
transfer.
same.
Yeah.
It's the only reason why it's a new application is because there's some like a business ownership change. So
Change of
Okay.
ownership.
yeah.
Do you anticipate any interruption of operations while?
No,
this is-
regarding on that side, we are retaining the previous owner as advisor, so he will oversee all the transaction and transition. So there will be no interruption whatsoever.
That's great.
And when do you expect to take over?
We are actually we're actually doing some like business training as we're speaking. So
Okay.
the transition is actually already started, but obviously he still owns a license. So yeah.
Great.
Cool.
Any additional questions?
Looks like it's in the
All
works.
right, and this did not require a hearing?
No.
Okay.
No. So I move to approve the new Class 2 license application for Zipping Wang of Village Auto Works LLC, doing business as Village European 50 Concord Turnpike.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Congratulations.
Good luck.
Good
Thank you
luck.
so much.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
We have
We've
another
got another batch of
license.
licenses.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're next.
All right, so this is the rest of our licenses for 2026 renewal. I will note that I spoke with Elmer about Dario's. I mentioned to you all that I would check in with him. And he said that they're really just putting the finishing touches on the inside of Dario's, and they should be opening by the end of the winter. He said when the sign goes up outside, you all will know that they're really close to opening.
Well, at one point, everything in the window came down, and we're like, yay, it's gonna
Yeah.
open, and then they went back up.
Yeah, so he said they're doing like paint and putting in like the booths and stuff like that right now, but they're close to opening.
Great.
Not related to the last application, but I know we are renewing some Class 1 and Class 2 licenses. Is there a limit on those, or?
How many we can have?
Yeah,
There's
I
a
don't think
table.
so.
Oh,
yeah, okay.
all right.
We don't have any Class 1 licenses in Concord, actually. We only have used auto sale licenses currently.
Right.
Great. All right, so I move to approve the Select Board licenses for 2026 annual renewal, batch number 2.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Shannon.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Shannon.
I'll sign later.
Yeah. Get ready for writer's cramp.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, and I thought I saw Darren online.
Yep.
So, Darren, are you ready to join us?
I am. Good evening.
Okay, we're gonna turn you down
down
just a little bit in here.
Okay, audio is adequate.
Oh, more than adequate.
Turn it down. Turn it down.
I'll
Darren.
try to.
Can we control and just turn the volume down a little bit? All right. Let's,
Does that help?
yes,
Yes,
it does.
yes.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay.
Is that
We're
okay?
gonna blow a
Yep.
speaker there for a minute.
Okay,
Perfect.
right,
Thank you.
How's the volume? Volume check.
Yep, nice.
okay.
So,
Okay.
tell us about the grant of easement.
Now I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Tell us about the grant of easement.
I am here to bring before you a grant of easement request by EMS Property Holdings LLC. This is for a water infrastructure easement on 80X and 1053 Main Street to be renamed Saddle Road and Harness Lane. This easement is a routine procedure using an established mechanism to give the Water and Sewer Department access and rights to operate, perform maintenance, and emergency repairs on their water-related facilities, including water mains, valves, curb stops, and hydrants, as necessary to provide these new homes clean, safe, potable drinking water as we provide all of our other customers. The Homeowners Association will retain ownership and responsibility for maintaining, repairs, and replacing the infrastructure in the future. I would like to note additional rights will be granted to the town of Concord, sidewalk access and stormwater infrastructure access when relevant documents are ready. The water infrastructure easement is brought to you now to facilitate the initiation of real estate transactions. EMS has been a good partner in coming to agreeable language with us for this easement. The Water and Sewer Department requests the Select Board approve with a vote this grant of easement for water utilities on Harness Lane and Saddle Road.
Where
Thank you,
is
Darren.
this?
Is that new?
Darren, where is this
It's
exactly?
just south of Route 2 on Main Street. If you're heading south, it's
Right
on the
across
left.
from Concord Green.
Right.
Right.
Right across from,
Right.
okay, got it. I know where it is.
Yeah.
You look at it every day.
Yep, I do. I walk there. I thought so.
Okay.
All right.
Any other questions?
No, it looks very straightforward.
Yep.
All right, so I move to approve the Select Board nope, that's the wrong one. Move to approve the grant of easement for water utility project 80X and 1053 Main Street definitive subdivision plan.
Second.
Second. Okay. Any further questions, discussions? All those in favor?
Aye. Great.
Darren,
Thank you,
before-
folks. Have a great evening.
Before you
Wait a sec.
leave us, were you able to hear Wendy pretty clearly?
I could, yes.
Good,
Yep.
thanks, because she's about to.
Yep, you're welcome.
No, I was trying.
Good.
I'm actually gonna, okay. So, moving on. So I'm here tonight to talk about our financial reserve policy, and I think you all have this in your packet. There were some red line updates to this. I don't know, Kristen, can you bring up the policy for those who haven't seen it? So just as, while Kristen's doing that, just recall, we formed the Financial Policy Work Group late this summer. We've been meeting several times. Members included Jennifer Barrett, Ryan Ferreira, myself, Lois Wassoff, and Dawn Kupka. Yeah. So I just want a little background too. So as we were preparing this policy, we did a lot of background research. We looked at the Division of Local Services recommendations, best practices. We looked at our town policy. We looked at town policies for a number of AAA rated municipalities. And we also looked at Moody's rating systems and their metrics that they use for assessing the health of stabilization funds. So we did some background calculations on that as well. I'll just note that from a Moody's perspective, in our ratings, we have gotten comments about our reserves being a little bit lower than their AAA metric. And so there's two funds, they have a ratio called available funds ratio, where they'd like to see 35% of your annual revenues to be in reserves. And we're a little bit below that metric, so we have about 30% on a regular basis, so a little lower. So anyway, so in this policy as written, there's a preamble section here that really speaks to state regulatory rules and procedures. I'm going to stop.
Just
Cameron.
Before you go, sorry, just.
Yep.
Is this, we have never had a policy and
No,
this is a brand new policy, or this
No, no,
is
no.
a?
This is a change
Yeah, I just
policy.
wanted to sort of,
Yep,
yeah,
yep,
just clarify for everybody.
So we have, and it's online, we have, the financial department has a series of financial policies. The last time it was updated was in 2017. And many of you may recall last year at town meeting, we had some proposed stabilization policies. And so that precipitated the creation of the Financial Policy Work Group. So.
Yep.
Okay, so
Thank
just a couple things I want to point out in the preamble. I just want to note a couple things. It calls out the differences in free cash and our stabilization funds. And I just want to remind members of the select board and members of the community some of the differences. And in particular, free cash, we think of free cash, it's our unrestricted funds that we have. It's measured at the end of each fiscal year as of June 30th of each fiscal year. And when those are measured, they have to be certified by the state. So from a town meeting perspective, our free cash has to be certified by the state. And sometimes that takes a little longer. It's not, our audited financials aren't usually ready to be audited until September 30th. So there's a gap between when you can really use free cash. So for example, if we were going to have a special town meeting in the fall of this year, for example, our current free cash has not yet been certified. So we wouldn't be able to use free cash in a town meeting, in a special town meeting, because it hasn't yet been certified. So that's something just important to remember about the use of free cash. And that versus a general stabilization fund, where if you have funds in general stabilization, they can be appropriated by town meeting at any time, assuming there's funds in there.
So you can't use free cash until it's certified?
You can't use it until it's certified, and then it's certified till the end of that fiscal year.
End of the fiscal year.
Right, so we're in fiscal year 26, so certified, when it's certified, it will be good till June 30th, which gets us through town meeting.
Right.
But
What is the best practice as far as certifying? What is the date that we should have free cash certified?
Carrie, I'll let you speak to that.
And I can tell you up until 4 years ago or so, we were completing our audit before Thanksgiving, always waiting for the actuaries to provide their pieces. And so free cash would be, you don't need to wait until the audit is completed to certify. You have to have your balance sheet available. So, we don't close anything until, we would close anything before September 30th because of the activity, mostly from federal funds. But I don't know. I bet if Jennifer was here, and she would have been here tonight if she could have been, she probably would tell you October or November is what her experience is. Our experience is more probably November, December, and then the last few years much later than that.
But a best practice would be?
In the fall.
Right.
And I think, maybe the group could talk about the pros and cons of a, a specific month a little bit. But I think it's important to have Jennifer's perspective because she's worked in communities where free cash has been certified very
Sooner.
promptly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that, and then none of it is available after that
Technically,
sort of
yeah, so
window.
technically, it's not until it's certified.
Yeah,
You can't.
It's all available in that window. It's not like, hey, last year we had X
Right,
amount.
it
We're adding a little bit,
Right.
but we can go back and use last year's. Like, it's just not
No,
available
it's just
anymore.
you cannot use
Right.
it until
Yeah,
it's certified. So it's just a subtlety that's important to understand.
Has that ever been an issue?
Well, I would point to this issue related to it is that, certainly I recall from my time on the Finance Committee, we usually had a pretty good working understanding of what free cash was going to be when we were setting the preliminary guideline. And so when we were doing the arithmetic around what resources were available to the budgeting entities, we were looking at our free cash, our projected free cash balance, understanding that it wasn't certified yet, but making an assumption about how if we were, had more free cash than was necessary to retain the reserves, then we were making a decision about whether some of that free cash might be allocated into the next year's budget cycle. And
I
so we
remember.
routinely
Right.
had a warrant article
We did.
that would appropriate some free cash towards tax relief, in effect, for the next budget cycle. And that was a lever that the Finance Committee would pull following the discussion this year, at least, and in recent years. There's been so much uncertainty and a lack of knowledge about the free cash levels that they really, that has restricted the ability of the Finance Committee to use that. And the way,
Yep. You're right.
I know we tend to think about Concord, but we are part of the regional school district. And I would just note that the town of Carlisle has a significant challenge this year because of the enrollment shift
Right.
going massively in favor of Concord and really creating a substantial problem. And that's the exact sort of thing that a Finance Committee with access to information about free cash might well decide to help with, because, and it's going to happen to us, that, it's a pendulum. It swings one way and then it swings back the other way. And so if you have those reserves, it allows us to create a more predictable, more stable, Prop 2.5 leads us to, if you can manage 2.5% on average over a number of years, you can be very good, but individual circumstances and individual years can make a difference, and this is one piece that I would like to see.
So
So
I think
to
we'll,
the question of how, is there a window where free cash isn't available to us if we needed it in an emergency? I think what I'm hearing you say is in the past, we've had a pretty good idea of what we expected free cash to be going into town meeting, so that we knew what we could take from free cash to maybe fill any gaps that we had that year.
Yeah, earlier than time, into the
Earlier,
budget building
even
process.
right,
Into
so-
the guideline building process,
Right.
which is where it really helps.
Yeah.
And so where do we stand this year?
We don't know.
As
So
far as
we,
timing, I know we don't know yet what the free cash is, but.
yeah, I think, Ryan, I don't know if
Oh,
you have a
Ryan's here.
response, but we're probably 2 or 3 weeks away from having our balance sheet completed and submitted to the Department of Revenue for free cash certification.
And then it usually takes them,
Days, a matter of a couple of days.
oh, okay, so it's not, okay. all
Yeah.
right.
So by the end
So-
of January, you think, maybe? That would be good.
Yes.
We have
Okay.
a solid number from last year's free cash. Is that
We
so?
do, yes, but as Wendy said, it expires at the end of the
Expire.
fiscal
I
year.
know it expires, but it's
Yeah.
cumulative, right? We
It
don't
is.
lose
Right.
it. So, but we can't use it, but we know what that number is. So have we used free cash in this last fiscal year?
The only use would be anything that was approved at the 2025 annual town meeting, and that was for the stabilization fund.
Right.
right.
So I would echo what Mark said. The problem for us has been in the planning. So you can't use it until it's certified. It's not available until it's certified, and you can't use it until it's approved by town meeting. So we don't often have special town meetings, but it is definitely impactful in the planning process.
Right.
But wait, just to clarify, so we have a number from last year. We know we've used some of that. So we have an estimate for what we can't use, we have an estimate going forward.
Well, you have to take into, that is the starting point.
Sort of, yeah.
Right.
But then you have
Estimate.
you have to take into account the activity of the year. So we could have different liabilities that we are holding for, and then you take into account the budget activity of the fiscal year. It's it's a complicated calculation, but it's last year's free cash is the starting point for the calculation.
Got it.
We would typically have a pretty good understanding, to Mark's point, right now, when we're in the budget
We
cycle,
should,
what our
yes,
certified free cash balance is. And then we don't. No.
Okay, so
Not yet.
let me,
Not yet.
if I can try to bring this back, so I just wanted to
Bring it
point
back.
out
Bring us back.
free cash and that there's a restriction on its use and it's not available to a certain point in time. The other options from, we mentioned general stabilization. Last year, we approved general stabilization. One of the things that we also should be aware of is that to use those funds, free cash, after it's certified at town meeting, takes a simple majority vote to use those funds. If you have funds in a general stabilization funds, there's a 2/3 majority vote that's required if you want to appropriate, or if you want to use funds from that. And that, and so that's the general stabilization, and then special stabilization funds such as the CMS building capital fund that we had, that only requires a simple majority to withdraw funds from as well. So that's just distinctions in the types of funds and their use and access. So, so if we move on in the policy, there's a table that has been put together, it's not up here right now, that sort of summarizes the different funds that are available. Is it coming up, Kristen?
I just realized that.
Okay. Yeah, so if you can scroll down to the next page. I'll just get this up. So, yeah, okay. So this table, I can speak from this for you've probably read the whole policy, but let me just, from a highlight perspective. So this table summarizes, this policy looks at 5 different funds, types of funds that are available. And it identifies, in this policy, what we've attempted to do is identify a minimum target level. Our current policy identifies ranges so it gives you sort of a target range of funding to look at. This explicitly establishes a minimum. That doesn't mean that we can't go well above that, but it establishes a minimum. It clarifies, when the funds are available, how it's accessed, whether it's a town meeting vote, et cetera. Gives you some examples of usage and a description of the fund itself. So what I'd like to do is let me just walk through each one of these. There's text that describes each of these funds as well, and so I'll attempt to cover what's in the text. The first fund is the annual reserve fund, and if you've paid attention to Carrie's budget on an annual basis, the annual reserve fund is part of our operating town budget.
Currently.
Currently.
So it is in there today.
It's in there
So this isn't
today,
a
and it's
new-
what, $200,000? It's historically always been a fixed dollar amount. Because in this policy, we're attempting to set a target based on the general fund budget, we attempted to make this a percentage calculation. In this case, it was a percentage of the town operating budget. And I don't know, Carrie, if you've had more conversations about this, that by making it a percentage of the town operating budget, it will grow as the town operating budget grows. Right now, this 1/6 of 1% is roughly equates to $200,000.
Is this snow and ice?
No. This is the reserve fund that the finance committee can authorize transfers from.
Okay, I didn't say that. Never
None of
mind.
this is snow and ice.
I don't want to bring that up. Never mind.
No, snow and ice is a completely different story. That's
So-
a 10-year average, whatever. So if within the operating budget, if there is an unexpected budget overage, there is an opportunity to go to the Finance Committee and ask for some transfer of funds to the department that's in need. The only time that I've heard this, or I recall from being on the Finance Committee, was a request when legal fees were far in excess of what was budgeted. And then there may be other storm-type expenses that we've had
Does
in the
it
past. It's
build-
very rare.
It doesn't build up.
No,
No.
If you don't use it,
No.
you don't
It's
use it, it
lost.
goes back to
back
free
into free
cash.
cash.
It goes to
No.
free cash.
Yeah, okay,
Exactly. Right.
that's fine.
So
And
that-
Wendy,
yeah.
I would just point out, on the table, it says 1/6 of 1%. On the next page in the text, it says no less than 0.6 of 1%. So it
Okay.
just, I think I think what you said is you intend it to be 1/6 of 1%.
Yeah,
right?
well, yeah,
Okay,
I
so
think
just-
we'll correct that.
That's cool.
Thank you.
No problem.
6/10, yeah, all right. So while we're on here, I also just want to point something else in the text. Here, the text as it's,
0.17%,
Point
yes.
one- in the
Yes,
text,
yes,
in the text of the annual reserve as it's written up currently, it implies that that could be used by town budget items that are outside the town manager's operating budget. And because this is within the town manager's operating budget, it really needs to be restricted to the town operating budget department expenses. So there's a reference here to using it outside the guidelines. I think we should strike that sentence, just being upfront about that. All right, so back onto free cash. So now if we talk about free cash, I just want to comment that the current financial policy document around free cash sets a target of 5 to 10% of the annual budget. And then it suggests that if we exceed 10% target, then we may be able to allocate we can use free cash for funding of one-time expenses or to fund other specialization funds if we choose. That's the current policy. In this policy, what we've done is say free cash should never get below 3%. That's really low. I wouldn't expect that we would ever get below 3%, but we set that
You've kind
as
of
a
split it up
minimum.
by then adding some into the
Right, exactly, right. So in your right, spot on there, in the write-up of the free cash policy, it says that when free cash in combination with the general stabilization fund exceeds 10%, much like in today's policy, then funds would be available. Free cash could be used to fund other stabilization, one-time expenses, et cetera.
Okay.
So then in the general stabilization fund, we've targeted at a minimum of 5%. Now, last year, recall, we put $1 million in. We're nowhere near 5% right now. We would have to build a plan over a number of years, I would assume, to get to 5%.
Because this is a target.
It's a minimum funding target.
Yeah, but my point is, it's not legally obligating us to do it all at once.
Absolutely,
It would be,
yes.
okay, how do we phase it in? Yep.
5% is what is recommended by the Department of Local Services for a general stabilization fund. And in general, stabilization funds are typically used for sort of emergency type situations. They're unexpected expenses or reserved for things that would be unexpected. The policy as written does allow for a one-time, non-recurring expense, so it could be used for that type of funding. And then the fourth fund here that's referenced is the overlay surplus. Now, the overlay fund, for those who don't know, is managed by the assessors, and it is a fund that's used to manage sort of outstanding tax abatements and other state-based things that might be outstanding.
How is it funded?
Well, it's from taxes. But there's a fund.
Is there a certain
It's all based on the accrued liabilities that are outstanding.
But on an annual basis, we set aside about $500,000 from our overall budget to put into the overlay account.
And then based on liabilities, it may or may not build up a surplus. And the definition of surplus is an assessor's assessment, if you will, of the outstanding liabilities against what's in the fund.
We've used that in the past to fund projects, so it's usually very conservatively funded.
Okay.
So
it's got, in fact, it's got, I think, $3 million in it.
If the town were to lose a major assessing appeal.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody, the assessment is one number and they get a big cut, the overlay surplus makes up is used to make up that gap in the lack. So if you don't have if you have a consistently good track record of not having a lot of appeals, not having a lot of tax abatements and things like that, then the overlay surplus will naturally build over time. And then it's up to the Board of Assessors to periodically decide whether we have too much in the overlay surplus. And if they can declare it surplus, in which case it can be then reappropriated for something else.
Or the town manager can go to the Board of Assessors, which...
No, well, so if you read the policy, what it says is on an annual basis, but at the time that they close out most of the tax abatements, usually around the end of May, there's going to be a process requesting the documentation of what is potentially overlay surplus and asking the assessors to report to the CFO and the town manager and actually the select board that there is a potential surplus.
Traditionally, what have we done with the overlay surplus?
Well, we very rarely used it, and Mary, you may recall, I don't know what it was.
To start the middle school stabilization
Oh,
fund.
that's where.
There you go, very good, thank you.
And
So-
who decides how much goes into this each,
To the overlay or to
the
the,
overlay?
I think it's,
You know, we do take a recommendation from the assessors, but we have been, pretty traditionally, have funded around $500,000, sometimes a little bit more than that. But I would say loosely based on the recommendation of the assessors.
so what the policy does here, it just asks that there's an annual assessment, which was not happening before. So I think we're putting more procedural, if you will, in the evaluation of the potential surplus.
Oh, so you're asking, okay, very
Yeah.
good, very
Yeah.
good,
It's
thank
trying
you.
to put a step into the process that formalizes it,
Right.
so that, it's a known thing every year, that
Right.
discussion, both in terms of what we're putting in and we're taking
taken
out,
out.
is,
Right.
put that question.
And when would that happen?
End of May. So it's actually written up in here. There's a point when the year closes out from abatements perspective, and that's all documented by the end of May. So that's the appropriate time to reassess what's in the fund. It's not exactly our budget cycle, but it is
Yeah,
the
it's not-
assessor's cycle for
But
tax
it's not
abatements.
ours, yeah.
But we'll know earlier in the budget process, so Mark talked about this earlier.
Yeah.
Part of having this policy, right now is the time to start looking at what you have for balances in your account. Are there funds available? Do you want to make a recommendation to town meeting for funding new stabilization funds or withdrawing funds from stabilization funds? So now is the time to have that kind of conversation.
Well, I'm glad to see that we're going to be, integrating this more into our process. The timing is still confusing to me as far as how we could or couldn't use it to fund our ensuing,
Specifically just the surplus?
yeah.
This
Okay.
one,
Yeah, so I think the problem is you only do it once a year, and the time to do it is in May. So we would know, for example, now, if there's a surplus, and I'm sure Ryan knows this, but we don't, I think, have one right now.
We don't have a surplus now?
I don't know that we've,
No, we'd have to, that's what the Board of Assessors would have to determine
Right.
what they would be then provide.
So we don't know?
There's no
So-
declared
no declared
We
surplus
don't know
right
now
now.
if we have a surplus.
Right.
Got it, okay, but we would next year at this
Yes.
time know if we had one last May.
Right.
Okay, so the last category of fund is the special purpose stabilization fund. The most common one we have now is the CMS stabilization fund. That's in here. Now, the stabilization funds, they don't have a specific target because they're specific to the purpose for which they're created. And even for those that are created, the policy speaks to having the CFO and town manager assess those stabilization balances.
And we have one now for the
For
middle
the
school.
CMS, yes, so.
Is that the only
yeah,
one we have
That's the only
currently?
special stabilization one that we have that's active,
Yep.
right?
We have,
Unless some has to get closed, I don't know, is there one lingering?
we have some on the books. We have one for school technology with a very small balance, right? Like,
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Oh,
then
that's
maybe
right.
another smaller one, but nothing of any material.
yeah.
One of the things that the policy group had talked about is looking at all our funds, and if there's anything that needs to be closed, we should close it. So
Yes,
that's something that
good
would have to
idea.
go to town meeting as well, so that may be something we'll talk about
But we-
later.
Our history over recent years has been that we've created a special purpose stabilization fund for virtually every major capital construction project that we've done. Because coupled with certain borrowing strategies, they can be very effective at sort of knocking down the peak and helping you, work your way into an increase in taxes due to excluded debt very effectively. So it's
Yeah.
really useful when a major capital project is anticipated to begin to fund a special stabilization fund ahead of that project coming on. Because we always know, even if it's just a year or two, there's a gap between approving a project design or concept and the actual borrowing and costs that come along with construction and so forth.
So to that point, the other thing that the policy group has been talking about, assuming that I'm moving on from this policy for a moment. We are all very much aware that we have very large town projects that are going to be in the pipeline in the future. And it will be our recommendation that we create this year a capital stabilization fund. I'm not talking about how much should be funded, but the other concept is rather than doing a project-specific stabilization fund, we establish one capital stabilization fund. And when you earmark funds to go into capital stabilization fund, accounting systems can keep track of how much you've put in for what purpose, and if there's interest that's accrued, it can be allocated across those. Because part of the reason for keeping them separate is that people can track the funds, and we know how much is CMS and how much is some other project. We can still do that accounting using just one fund rather than having individual funds. So that will be a recommendation from the Financial Policy Work Group.
Can I make a comment? Yeah. I think that's great that we establish a capital stabilization fund because we know we've got some big, right. The warrant closes on January 23rd, I think.
Correct.
And we won't have certified free cash until after that. So do you have any idea of the amount?
So I'll just say that the Financial Policy Work Group is going to meet and talk about this on January 6th. And it's very much dependent on what our estimate of free cash is, what other what other budget items need to be considered as well. So we don't have a recommendation on that, but we are feeling that at least the creation of the stabilization fund should occur. I should also comment that with some discussions with Carrie, the documentation behind what we currently have for general stabilization fund, it was created in 1960. Very, very old, that we believe that we should rescind that definition and basically rewrite the purpose of the General Stabilization Fund so it's just cleaner. And it can be used for the purposes that we've written in this policy as well.
Okay, I'd like to continue for a minute. Can I?
Yeah.
Thank you.
We can go back
Thank
to policy.
you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that capital stabilization fund is a great idea. I've always been a fan of that. I'd like to see one started and funded this year. But I do have concerns about a general stabilization fund, and let me explain why. To me, a general stabilization fund is just another flavor of free cash. So I'm wondering why we can't keep things just in free cash. I know that the state, the DLS, recommends a certain level, but I'm more interested in what the markets think we should have in our reserves. Because they're the ones that sell our debt and they're the ones that issue bond ratings. So I'm much more concerned about what they think, and they don't distinguish between a general and free cash. So to me, free cash offers more flexibility because it only requires a majority vote as opposed to a 2/3 vote in order to get things out of it. And if we had good practices in town like we did years ago, we would know what our free cash balance was going into town meeting. And the few months that we would possibly be exposed, I would feel is kind of, I don't know, unlikely that we would have such an emergency that we would have to,
Well, it's not necessarily an emergency, so let's assume just.
The general fund is.
No, but the way we've written the general fund, the general stabilization is, yes, it's emergency, but can also be used for any one-time, non-recurring expense.
But so could free cash.
No, but remember, with free cash, unless it's certified, you can't use it. So if you want a special town meeting in September next year, chances are you can't use free cash.
Okay.
So I guess that's the one place where you have that.
I just think that if we had good practices internally, which I know we're getting towards, I think we would have a better handle on free cash and we would have it certified in a timely manner.
But the only other, well, it's not an advantage. I guess the only distinction is that when the funds are in general stabilization, any interest earned on that stays within that fund as well. And I know that would happen with free cash as well. It's not different.
Yeah, it's. I don't understand how that's advantage.
Somewhat along those lines. I'm
Well,
wondering, are we, by specifying this 5% minimum for general stabilization, are we building in a normal tension between stabilization funds? If we need more in a specific stabilization fund, which I think we are going to,
Well, so-
specifying 5% there, is that limiting our ability to fund specific stabilization?
No, I know. I mean, I think, we just talked about creating capital stabilization. I would put money in capital stabilization before general stabilization. And that's a discussion that we all would have with the finance
So
department.
there's a hierarchy here that's implied.
No, I think special stabilization are separate and apart. I think the only place where we've tied the two is when you have more than 10% in combination between free cash and general stabilization. Then you would allow usage of those funds, free cash.
But you're specifying a 5%.
Right, but actually in the policy under free cash, it says 3% as a minimum, but then it says you can use free cash if the combination of free cash and general stabilization exceeds 10%. So that's the trigger for using any funds, would be the combination of the 10%, which is what we have today. It's
Yeah,
in
so
essence.
when I was serving on the finance committee, we used to think a lot more about, is free cash getting over the 10% number?
That's really,
If it was,
The good old days.
then we were considering whether or not it should be either moved to a special stabilization fund or applied to reduce the levy, understanding that the
Yeah.
problem with that is, when you start to do that, you're masking something that may be an ongoing expense, and you can't afford to do that every year. So we would tend to be pretty conservative about how we did that, but we recognize that it would creep up. And so the more normal thing was to see that and then see, an Alcott school or a Willard school or a high school coming down the pipe and putting that extra free cash across to a special stabilization. So now this policy is basically saying, well, we'd have a choice now between a capital stabilization fund and a general stabilization fund. And I would think that we would, if we're having a discussion about opinions here, I would think that we would think of the general stabilization fund as something that should not be below its minimum, but thought of as emergencies and non-recurring, and therefore sort of programmatically managed to be near its baseline expectation to maintain our bond rating and in our peers. And we would still do the same thing. We'd just add free cash and general stabilization. And if that looks like more than our minimum reserves, then we would still be looking at special stabilization or tax relief.
and of course, right now, it all depends on what free cash we have, right? So
Right.
are we over that 10% or not? We don't know right now. But that's when you would make that decision to choose. Perhaps we are.
No, I would just say that we know what our free cash was last year. It's not, I wouldn't expect it's going to be significantly different than the number that 15.9 million, and it's probably higher.
Yeah.
So it's not going to come in at $5 million or something. So just
Let me put that number out.
Just for the,
Which,
just
I
for
mean,
the
if
folks so converting that into a percentage
Yeah,
of the
good.
general
Very
fund
good.
budget
Yes.
for
So-
next year, what is that?
1% is 1.4 million, because our bottom line, at the last year's budget was
That would be
145
like
million.
11 or 12%, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, which is
Yeah,
on the high
so-
end.
Oh, wait, what was our, I didn't follow that arithmetic.
14 million would be 10%.
Got it.
Is
Yeah.
a round number way to
Yeah.
think about it.
Okay, yeah.
So Wendy, you went through with others, right,
Right.
on this.
Yeah.
How did you get to a place as a group where you thought, hey, we should have free cash at 3 and general stabilization at 5? Like, what was sort of the?
So I'd say, and Ryan, you can correct me, so 5% is what is recommended by the Division of Local Services. We know that we want to have some kind of threshold around 10%. And actually, 8% would be okay. So 3 plus 5 is 8. And then, so 8 is really what you want to have, and if you go over 10% is when we'd start consider using funds for other stabilization funds or
Division
other.
of Local Services is a part of the state government that seeks to assist and consult with towns about their finances.
Right, yes.
And they specified how much should be in general or just?
They actually said they recommend 5 to 7% be in
In
general
general.
stabilization.
And yet, again, the market didn't say that. Is that true?
Well,
They probably have no recommendation on a free cash level. So
no, that was general stabilization, that was the question.
The market.
No,
Yeah,
right, but
right,
I don't
yeah.
think the Department of Local Services is telling communities, making a recommendation on free cash. So I think you can think of free cash, general stabilization. Unrestricted reserves is what their policy recommendation is targeted at.
So they weren't focusing on general, they were just focusing on reserves? Or were they focusing on I'm still stuck on the general stabilization fund because
So I guess what I will say from a historical perspective, the town of Concord has traditionally held its reserves in free cash versus stabilization funds, with the exception of the special purpose stabilization funds, for the reasons, Mary, that you stated. That the community, the policy has, or the understanding has been that free cash is more accessible. Given its limitations, it's easier to access because of the lower quantum of vote required to access it.
Yep.
And the point that I was making is the Department of Revenue likely does not have a free cash recommendation for towns. They have a reserve recommendation for towns, and it's a stabilization fund reserve.
I thought they made some statement about it, but I could be wrong. I thought it was 5 to 7% of both of those, 5%, yeah.
So as long as there's a
Free
number
cash
out there,
and
can I do
general.
some sixth grade algebra?
Go ahead.
So if theoretically, if we have 11 or 12% free cash, I'm not saying we do.
Yeah.
So subtracting the 8% here, there would be 4% available for.
Well, if it was 12%, just let's use it.
I mean, that's.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
basically,
but I would say 2%, because the idea is you want to have 10% in combination between free cash and general stabilization. So if you're saying we have 12%, it would be 2% that you would be positioned to allocate to some other
3
fund.
plus 5 equals 8. You're saying.
But the policy is maintain your reserves up to
The minimum,
10%.
I got it.
Right, 10%.
So minimum 3, minimum 5. If you
That's
get
8,
cumulatively over 10,
Yes, you got it. So there is a difference between 8 and 10, but
Yeah, but given the capital needs out there, there's prioritization has to take place. We
right,
could do
right,
that
and it's
now,
a
but-
discussion, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Exactly.
got it.
So,
Right.
so Wendy, I think what I'm hearing right now is Congress had a policy of using free cash as their reserve and not a general stabilization fund. The question came up at our last town meeting, and this particular group, and at that time, I was worried that we were going to establish free cash and a general stabilization fund, and that's why I originally thought I didn't like the general stabilization fund idea. But what I'm hearing, this group has come up with something that said, hey, we're going to keep the same level of reserves, but we're just splitting them between free cash and a general stabilization. Is that?
Right, and I would.
Is that accurate?
Yes. Yes, and I would say there's 2 reasons. One is to limit the risk of not having access to free cash because of town meeting, because of the certification. And then I had hoped that we might be able to invest those funds differently, but what I heard from Jennifer is that we would not.
Okay, so that's
Okay,
not a benefit.
I don't know if we
So
could
then
push
the
that
only-
or not.
The only
No,
really
I know, she should know.
So the difference is that the general fund, it's harder to get the money out of than the free cash, but the general fund is available during a window of time.
Yes.
When something might happen that we need the money fast.
Or if you're planning, it's, yeah.
And it appears
was
that,
fast.
it appears that in an organized way, if you felt like your general stabilization fund had more in it than was necessary, you could simply plan to move it to another, either a capital stabilization fund. or-
Yes.
Don't you need a 2/3 vote, though?
You do need a 2/3
See,
vote,
that's-
but
that's-
the, I like to think that when we're talking about these sorts of things, the rationale is clear enough and there's enough of an imperative that the 2/3 of, I mean, typically when we make these allocations, we're nowhere near counting noses to see whether we're close to a majority or not. These are typically voted by very overwhelming margins, so I'm not that worried about what town meeting would do in those situations.
Because you have to go back to town meeting regardless, whether it's free cash or general
It's
stabilization.
a town meeting vote, it's a town meeting vote.
There are different mechanisms, one that have slightly different benefits.
Yeah, yeah.
In my mind, I would just split them then. Because I don't actually like having free cash be less than general. It just sort of sends this sort of notion, we're gonna take more than half our money and move it out of free cash.
Yeah.
It might be just semantics, but I would just be like,
4 and
we're gonna
4.
50-50.
At one point,
We
I
have two
will say,
mechanisms, half goes in one, half goes in the other generally.
we did talk about 5% and 5% as a minimum.
Talking about 10%.
Well, or 4 and 4.
Or
I mean,
4
it
and
just
4. Yeah, we could do 4 and 4.
So it's no more than 10%, right? And no less than 5%, no. I don't know. Never mind.
Well, it's 4 and 4 as sort of a minimum.
Okay,
Yeah,
I like that.
4 and 4.
Gets over
10
10
is
in
the
total.
maximum.
It's
Start
that
to
would
look
still
at
work.
using the excess.
That's fine. We can flip these and make them
That-
4 and
That's
4.
fine.
Okay.
So then it would be 8 to, okay,
It's
8 to 10.
8, and then if you get over 10,
Exactly.
it works.
Exactly.
Cameron, thank you.
Okay. All right.
Did you have more that you wanted to?
No, unless there's
Help with?
comments. Or Ryan, is there anything else that you want to add from?
Covered it well, Wendy.
Okay. All right, we'll go with 4 and 4.
Great.
Do we actually feel comfortable enough to approve this at this point with 4 and 4?
I think
I'm gonna-
so. No, do you want to wait?
Well,
You decide.
I recognize that there may be some,
Are there
no, I
comments?
guess not, yeah. I would, if you guys are ready, then that would be good. I think what we're going to transition into a couple of things that have to do with town meeting articles, but let's set an expectation is that at town meeting, we will probably now expect to see some articles
Yep.
that both create and/or modify the existing definitions, particularly of the general stabilization fund.
Yep.
And then there would be some appropriations to that stabilization fund, and there may be the creation of a capital stabilization fund that meets the general outline of what in this material is a general, special purpose stabilization fund
Yep.
to be used for future capital programs, and we may or may not see an appropriation to that as
Yes,
well.
correct.
Okay, so we're going to see 2, 3, 4 articles all related to this topic.
Revised general stabilization. I don't know that we've talked about funding more in general stabilization, but definitely rewriting or just resubmitting the purpose of the general stabilization, a proposal for capital stabilization and potential funding, but that's going to be following further discussion.
I think the priority is the special
I did,
capital
yeah,
fund, not
yeah.
the stable, not the
Yep,
general
yep.
stabilization.
Yep, I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all.
I remember making a
Yeah.
point at last year's town meeting, and I would return to it, is that I feel like some kind of organized transition from where we are today to a future
Yes.
state where we're meeting these targets feels more orderly to me than just, going in and saying, oh, we got
Dump it.
this free cash number, we're gonna move all this money around
agree.
and start these funds all at once.
So
It's-
schedule.
Yeah,
Or
a schedule for
Yeah.
reaching it might make sense. And we also did touch on the fact that, depending on what free cash looks like, a free cash appropriation article could turn up too.
Yeah, I mean, it might.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Potentially.
right.
Oh, to the general or to the special?
Well,
Well, to either to the general fund or to something else.
Okay.
I mean, last year, we appropriated 250,000 of free cash towards the MCI planning.
Right.
And
That's right.
And
Right.
that was considered a one-time and a special purpose. So we, the thing that got mentioned this evening that I might lean towards is if we had, considering what we have to do to make it to the 2.5%, and we have special expenses that are potentially expected for a special town meeting, we could always decide that a special town meeting is a one-time expense, and we could take some free cash and spend on
Yes.
that, rather than having to bake it into the budget and creating
Good.
more difficulty for
Right.
Very good.
for others.
I
So
like that.
that's the kind of,
Yep.
I guess in terms of recognizing the work that was done on the budget this year and the, unusual circumstances under which it was built.
Right.
First, Ryan, you're in front of me, and I know Jennifer's online. Thank you,
Oh, sure.
because, you got here this summer, I think, and put together a budget by the fall for us. That is a remarkable lift. So, I think, well, I appreciate how hard that is. But having said that, I think that one of the things that may have not gotten as much attention as we might want it to is what kinds of strategic investments might need to be made by this board and by this town in order to meet the challenges like the MCI planning or others
Yes.
that
Right.
are on the horizon, and we may need to be thinking about those separately
That's fair.
from the baseline operating budget, which is really focused on meeting those day-to-day needs and not necessarily accomplishing projects or
that's
other
fair.
goals. So,
Yes, very good.
like acquiring property or disposing of property or figuring out which you should do.
Or doing
Yeah.
studies.
That's
Doing
true.
studies.
Yes.
Right.
Very good.
Okay, so can
Okay.
I actually just make a motion?
Sure.
Yes.
Assuming, Ron, you're okay with this. I move to approve the financial reserve policy with the modified allocation to free cash and general purpose stabilization of 4% each.
Second.
And you had a couple of other
Reserve.
changes.
Oh, and yeah, and the edit, sorry,
Just-
yes.
just to make sure-
Yes,
just to
no,
make sure they
thank
get
you.
reflected.
And the items discussed during the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, the edits that came out in the marked up version.
Yes.
I know there was an
Yeah.
N added to stabilization, something in one of the tables and some other typographicals. Okay,
Yeah. Okay,
Very
so I
good.
made a motion.
Second.
okay, and any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Thank
This
you
is a
all.
big
Very
lift.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you to the rest of
Wendy,
the
Jennifer,
financial
Lois,
reserves.
Ryan.
And
Yeah.
did we create, you'll let us know when,
What?
when and if you're ready for us to,
Yeah, I would expect probably our first meeting,
okay.
or maybe the second, but we're meeting as a group on the 6th, so,
Well, the beginning of January.
yeah,
Okay, great.
okay.
All right.
Thanks, Ryan.
And I was gonna double check there was a shift I was gonna make in the agenda right here.
Did you cover the preview of potential warrant
Well,
articles?
yeah, I was
But
saying
you
we would
Delia
move
here
into
too,
the,
yeah.
we would move into the preview, and then we would vote to open and close the warrant before we get on
Oh.
to the other things that are.
Okay, I got it, okay.
Not so town
Okay.
meeting related, since we're on kind of a roll
Okay.
here. So we just discussed the financial articles, and what I wanted to do here was just pause for a minute. All of us have liaison assignments. I put out the call at the chair's breakfast
Oh.
this week also for any sort of headlights or previews of articles that might be coming before town meeting, particularly articles that might be looking for sponsorship by the select board that we need to be aware of. The way the calendar falls, we only have one meeting scheduled while the warrant is actually open, and that's a January 12th meeting. So if there are articles that we need to discuss, whether we should put them on the warrant or not, that would be the date. Once something is on the warrant, we can always discuss it subsequently.
Yep.
In terms of support, or, for example, if we had a free cash appropriation, we could discuss the amount of that at a
Good.
later meeting.
Okay.
So I'm aware of two potentials. One was mentioned by actually was mentioned by the chair of the Community Preservation Committee, but it actually relates to the NRC, which is the possible creation of a conservation fund and conservation fund bylaw. So this would be something similar to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So monies could be appropriated into that would then be later spent under the direction of the NRC on that. And I've also heard some rumblings that there might be a request for either a solar
Yep.
policy or possibly a solar project. But I don't think that's coming out of committees necessarily. It may be more of a citizen's petition.
Yeah, that would be a citizen petition.
Yeah.
The conservation bylaw,
Yeah.
that was coming in through a CPC
Well,
request
The
to
creation?
fund
Exactly.
that.
Oh, it was?
Exactly, yes,
Yeah,
that's
so that was
how,
one of the requests.
Yes.
one of,
And it
they,
got funded?
yeah, the CPC
why-
has an application for $500,000, and it was earmarked for a conservation fund. And then we got in, Paul being the liaison to the NRC, got into a discussion about, well, what is a conservation fund? How do we set that up? What are the, what's the governance of that fund? And how do we make this transparent to town meeting as far as what we're doing? So that's how this whole conversation.
Can I give you a little background?
Please.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's, the genesis of the Conservation Fund was an application from DNR, from Delia for $500,000. But on an ongoing basis, I think, and this is for purchase of land for conservation, which is identified in the open space plan. I think the intent is that the fund would build up, not unlike the Housing Trust Fund, to some level yet to be determined. That was what Delia said at the application. So the question is, what is the law, the statute that specifies the genesis of the NRC also specifies that the NRC can administer a conservation fund. But the law, the statute, doesn't set up the conservation fund. And so there's some ambiguity. But other towns, and Wellesley in particular, had a bylaw to establish a conservation fund. Why is that? I think to get public approval for setting up such a fund, and also, as Mary said, to define the governance of that fund. The NRC can spend those funds, that's clear in the law, but the process and the governance and the communication and the oversight, I'm not going to say approvals, but that there's a lot of coordination that would be needed between committees and with the public as well. So the statute doesn't talk about any of that coordination. So that the purpose of the bylaw would be to get the approval of the town, the public, to set up a conservation fund for that purpose, conservation land, and to establish the governance of that fund. And I think that would make everybody feel comfortable that it was going to be, and the Treasury owns the fund. So that's the purpose of setting up that fund.
And let me just expand upon that a little bit when you're talking about the governance. So you're bringing it to town meeting and asking town meeting if they want to set up, that would be the transparency. But the other question is around governance. The Affordable Housing Trust, for example, requires select board approval before any of that money is spent. Like, they'll have to come to us to buy 91B if they decide that that's something they'd want to do. So one of the things that we could ask is that this particular bylaw includes some approval or review by the select
So
board.
what I'm inclined to do here is not get into the details right now.
Well, it's too late.
But I was trying to be polite, but we know it's out there. We know that staff is working on a recommendation for what the structure should be. And I think we'll strongly consider whether or not this would be one that we might discuss as an agenda item.
Yep.
At our next meeting, when the warrant is still open, if that work is completed, and then, so that we could weigh in while there was still opportunity to change.
Just the interesting complication on this one, as far as CPC is concerned, usually all CPC approvals are in one warrant article.
Yeah.
But if the
break it
CPC
out.
could not fund this unless the bylaw
Unless it
passed.
exists.
Unless it exists.
So, yeah,
Oh,
so
so they're gonna
they
throw
can't fund
those.
something that
There'd have
doesn't
to be some
exist.
sequencing.
So it could create some
So that-
sequencing things
so-
that we'd want to do.
So that's to be
Exactly.
determined how
And
the
they're aware of it
sequencing
too.
happens.
Yeah, and that
Yeah,
was.
everyone's
the
aware of
point.
that.
Yeah.
The
Good.
chair of
Now we're all up
CPC
to
is waiting for
speed.
We
direction.
have
Let's do this
occasionally
first.
done
We've done
separate
that
articles
before, yeah.
instead of the one sort of omnibus funding article for
That's right.
certain CPC.
So this will be on our agenda next meeting?
Yeah, we'll probably talk
Sounds
about
like
it
it,
a
yeah.
little bit at the next meeting, and, you know, it's mostly for awareness that this is out there and
Okay.
and being worked on.
Just one last thing.
Are there any other
Just what,
things that have?
can I mention one other thing? It's a
Okay.
question for Carrie. My understanding was that town council was drafting a draft of this for everybody to look at. Is
Yes.
that the case?
Yes, it is,
Okay.
it is the case, and he has a deadline of end of calendar year, so well in time for the
So we'll have something
meeting
to
on the
actually
12th.
Okay.
consider.
And then can we just draw a parallel to the housing roundtable governance? Because I thought they chose to spend some money on stuff that never came to us. So maybe we could just
Oh,
follow
it's
up on
the
that
purchase
separately.
of land.
It's the purchase of land.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't put that, yeah, it's the purchase of land.
Okay.
Yeah, I figured that
Yep.
one.
I have one
You do.
that I wanted to mention that nobody is thinking about. And
Good.
this is an update to an existing bylaw that's called soliciting bylaw. This has to do with door-to-door solicitation in town. This is a bylaw that was first adopted in 1977, last updated in 2006. Based on some complaints that we have received over the last several months, we have been working with town council, and there are some updates that are needed to this bylaw. The bylaw we have on the books is too restrictive as it relates to current or recent court cases, and so there are some adjustments that we need to make. And since this is the board that hears things that nobody else wants to hear, I think this one is in front of you. So.
Yeah.
And then, can I,
It's going to make recruiting easy.
Mark, can I just add one more that
Sure.
Lois mentioned to me, and I'll just note the Financial Policy Work Group hasn't discussed this. There was an idea that you this year, because the Concord enrollment for the region was down and our percentage for Carlisle went up. You know, we benefited this year by a reduction, but that's going to turn around. And in the future, we potentially are going to have a high assessment from the region because things will change. There was a concept about the same thing could happen with Minuteman, although Minuteman has a 3-year rolling arrangement. There was a discussion about potential stabilization for sort of an assessment stabilization fund. I'm just mentioning it because Lois had mentioned it, and we'll talk about the financial policy. It needs more discussion, for sure. But again, you know, if we're thinking toward the future and avoiding future unexpected expenses, this is one idea. I'd prefer that we change the regional agreement to get a 3-year rolling average in there, but that takes time. So I'm just mentioning it because you asked.
I did.
Okay.
Good. Well, so, and that's also my way of reminding everybody that the warrant opens on the 29th, as we're about to vote.
Okay.
And it closes on the 23rd.
Yep.
And so if you're a member of a town committee, if you're a citizen considering a petition, that your opportunity is just about here.
Okay, would you like a motion?
I would.
Okay, I move to open the town meeting warrant on December 29th, 2025 at 9 a.m. and close town meeting warrant on January 23rd, 2026 at 12 p.m.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
And I would just pay attention to that closing time.
Yes,
So that is
noon.
new this year,
It's noon.
as the
Right.
town moderator has mentioned in other venues. The noon time, which I believe the 23rd is a Friday, is that?
Yes.
Am I right about that?
Yes.
And that's an opportunity to make sure that we know what we have at the end of the business day and don't have, you know, somebody coming up and pounding on the door at 4 p.m. So the closing time is noon on the 23rd of January, 2026.
Yep.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
No.
Aye. Great. Okay, so just doubling back on the agenda. The next item that we were going to talk about is the MCI advisory, I'm sorry, not the
DEI.
MCI, the DEI commission charge. And this is, has been the subject of quite a bit of discussion around town. Included in the packet this time are 3 documents in a row about this. And the first document, starting on page 79, is the existing charge dated, last amended on September 7th, 2021. And what you'll notice about this is that it doesn't look very much like previous or
No.
other charges in terms of form and format. And I think that's because this did come out of sort of citizen organization. And while there are things there are many things to like about it, there are also some challenges in the sense that it incorporates some language which is covered in ABP 10, and adds some sort of new nuances. So the next version of this, which is the one that says revised December 2025 with community feedback, this is the version that the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission itself worked on, discussed in their meetings. We heard some feedback on this and have received some correspondence about it as they attempted to grapple with how we bring the current focus that we want to have on anti-Semitic behavior in particular, as well as other omissions and challenges for this document that related to the definitions in this document. This is how they voted to update it. The third version in this little family tree begins on page 85 of the packet, and I will take responsibility for this. I was assisted by the town manager in first modifying this to more closely resemble the standard format that we use for committee charges, so that it would look less different. But also, in particular, trying to address what I saw the central tension of many of the comments that we were receiving between how specific and what kind of lists were going to be in this charge versus having this be a broad and flexible mandate that a committee could work on and not have almost continuous problems with, did you include every category of every concern that someone could have? So my goal for tonight, I attempted to resolve this with, after seeing the comments that you guys fed through Kristen, and I was going to ask Kristen to redistribute those comments that you sent to her back to the whole board tomorrow or something, so you can all see what I was sort of working with for input. I decided that I was not going to work so much off your specific edits, but try and capture some of the sense of what was coming through. And the way I chose to work that, and I'm looking for your feedback now, is primarily through the third paragraph in the background, which I think I'm going to read because probably there's a lot of people here that haven't had an opportunity to read this. I'm going to just check the Zoom meeting because it looks like the Zoom's still working, so I don't know why the TV's not on. But we're going to assume that that those hardy souls that have
People can
stayed
still
with
hear
us I can see myself on it, so I think that it's fine. So I'm just going to read that third paragraph. Well, so in the background, we start with the town of Concord is committed to fostering a community in which all residents, employees, and students feel welcomed, valued, respected, and heard. And instead of going through a lot of detail about this, I chose to say that this commission is advisory, and it's working to help us identify and understand the issues of bias, discrimination, exclusion, and inequitable opportunity. And the work is informed by community input and lived experience and best practices in diversity, equity, and inclusion, with the goal of strengthening civic trust, cohesion, and shared belonging in Concord. This charge is designed to be general and durable in scope. Therefore, the majority of this charge is written in a general way. However, the Select Board recognizes that in the year 2025 and the recent past, disturbing incidents of anti-Semitism, hate speech, racial bias, and other forms of bias and exclusion are taking place in Concord. The Select Board categorically condemns such behavior and seeks through its own work and the work of this commission to promote community-wide engagement in the necessary, difficult self-reflection to find solutions to address these challenges with empathy, compassion, dedication, respect, and love. So that is my particular spin on what the goal is here. And then the rest of it is designed to fit more neatly into our previous charge forms. I did not choose to extensively, the reformatting process brought us this list of, I think it's 17 duties and responsibilities, and I recognize that there's some redundancies, some overlaps, and some concerns, many of which you guys pulled out of the previous one, that we'll want to go through and I anticipate some detail. But I wanted to sort of frame our discussion that way so that the hope here today is that we can get to, first I wanted you to weigh in on the approach I was taking, and then if we can get some general consensus on the direction and type of changes, I will bring this back for, a more detailed review. So I'll pause there, and I'd like to hear from each of you actually on this in any order that you can come up with.
Well, I mean, I can start. I really like that you restructured it, and I recognized right away that it was consistent with our other charges. And I really like the way you put the background together. I thought that was very helpful. And I think the purpose section is clear and concise, and you've eliminated a lot of the redundancy in the prior language, so I thought that was really helpful. I do still feel like there's a lot of duties in the charge, and if you're giving us the opportunity to eliminate some of that redundancy, I think that's good. I do like the fact that the committee would report back to the Select Board periodically. I think that's important because I don't think we've really heard anything, and I think it's important to all of us that we address this, so that's good. And I also appreciate that there's public forums being held as well, and that those duties. So I thought you did a nice job.
Yeah, if I can add, I think you've done a great job here. I think you've taken something that was very complex and created some clarity and simplicity in the front. And you've added the contemporary imperative, which is really why the DI Commission really thought to revise the charge in the first place, that things were happening in 2025. So I really think that's a very important section in there. I too think that we'll have to work on the duties. I will acknowledge that the original charge had 10 duties, now there's 17. So it needs some work, as you said, but I don't think we ought to talk about that here. I think the rest of this document is really good. It's general, it's up to date, and I think it covers all the bases without mentioning every piece of it.
Yeah, I think that you were very eloquent in documenting what we're doing and why we're doing it, and now we need to work on how we're going to do it, which is the duties, and I think they need to be crisper and condensed. And I'm particularly interested in the number 14, the assist the Select Board in recruiting diverse. I'd like to understand more about that and better, maybe some other ways that we can accomplish this without including it in the charge. So that would be something I'd like to take a closer look at.
I was inclined, I left the words in there because they were in the other one, but I was inclined to strike the Select Board from that.
Yep.
So it would read, assist in recruiting diverse applicants to town boards and committees, and
That's
support departments' efforts to diversify the town workforce. Because I think that by raising giving people an opportunity to understand what their role might be in town government themselves, and actually using this as a way to bring more people into the process is.
We can get into the wordsmithing. I think
Yeah.
there's something there. I think, something about supporting, how we
Yeah.
encourage diverse applicants or something, right?
Yep.
Right.
But yes, I think it probably needs to change from
Yeah.
the specific
Give me
language.
your general reaction though, Ken.
Yeah, so first of all, I would echo, so I think this is a much improved version, and I think the format and the structure that you have here, I think works much better. So, thank you for that, and thank you for pulling that together. I would have a couple of, some comments as I read the details, right? Just in wordsmithing and, some definitional choices and things like that. But if we have the opportunity to kind of come back with, what would be a smaller number of red line comments versus, the first draft. And you know what? I mean, I would just also say, like, you're reading that third paragraph, I think is not only important, but I would just say I think it, recognizes a lot of how the people in the town have, felt and have expressed. And I think it speaks a lot to, frankly, your leadership in this area, right? So, I mean, thank you for that. I think that's, that's an important piece as well. If I was to have one particular place that I want to, maybe sort of challenge specifically, when we get to the stuff about membership, and it says, in sort of how we choose the membership of the committee, specifically saying that a majority of members come from historically underrepresented groups. I just think that has the danger of, this is affirmative action and, has even been sort of recently declared illegal in some places. And, so again, for me, I would just go back to, we have a policy on APP 10 in terms of how the select board, appoints members. And included in that policy is how we want to, get diverse representation across, across our committees. So I would personally go with just, sticking with that as our approach.
Okay.
You're saying because APP 10 already has that language
APP
in
10
it. Yeah.
calls out how we recruit members and how we look for diverse membership and how we look for things that are representative across the town, et cetera. So to me, that, I feel like that sort of covers it, and I feel like this actually risks a sort of different conversation, frankly. Yeah.
Just one last comment on the duties as we kind of think about them. There are a lot of things that the DI Commission does, activities, but those are not all duties that we assign to them. I mean, a lot of things on there are really good, and they do all those, but are they duties? Are things we're asking them to do? So that's what we have to think about.
Yep. Yeah, what the charge is specifically. Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Just, I wanted to mention one other thing is that, you guys, we did a specific handoff. The DEI Commission passed the second version that's in our packet, and then I worked on this, and so I'm recognizing that the DEI Commission is probably going to also want to provide us some feedback on this draft, and I'm going to ask them to do so, recognizing what our discussion has been, because I do feel like that some of the best charges are a good dialogue between, especially in this kind of environment where we're working on something that is really an initiative for our community rather than just administering, the Wetlands Protection Act or something like that, where we don't get a lot of input on necessarily what's in there. So I'm expecting that part of the conversation to take place too, and I'll ask them to look at it.
So,
anybody else want?
Well, just so, I was just asking about, unless there's other comments of just next steps, we would go back to you with any more specific kind of comments again.
Let's do a round of that. Looking over the duties, I could definitely see some that were, you know, part of or, you know, somewhat redundant with others. And so I could make some of them a little bit, you know, like number 4, developing observations and identifying areas of systemic racism, discrimination, and exclusion within Concord is not really, is another way of saying gather and elevate firsthand experiences from historically, you know, so there's definitely some tightening up or just plain consolidation so that I do think that being a conduit for making sure that we are listening as a community is an important framing of this. So I think that those are, there's a group that fall into that. I think the developing tools and strategies and, you know, methods of gathering facts about it, that's all part of listening correctly or intently and with purpose. And then making recommendations and also promoting awareness engagement, which I view as the educational function, are the sort of, you know, main categories that I would be looking for. And then using those recommendations to work with leadership and other committees and try and help bring that lens to anyone who wants to. So somewhat like, you know, there's some overlap here with what the Committee on Disabilities, Commission on Disabilities actually does, in that they help, you know, interpret and understand the Americans with Disability Act and the other relevant codes for project holders. So I'm looking to do those kinds of things to this next as we work to finalize it.
Well, I'm also wondering, at the end, 15, 16, 17, could those be a separate section? Are those duties, are they responsibilities to the select board? Those, I mean, they're kind of, they feel different.
Yeah.
But they're important, but maybe this is a different category of reporting duties to the select board. Just so you can split those out.
That's an interesting thought. I hadn't thought of that specifically.
I mean,
but
as
okay.
deliverables, right? We often have deliverables pulled out in a separate
kind of
description.
deliverables, reporting obligations.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we also recognize that probably as a working group that you're working on hate and bias incidents, there's probably going to be some intersection between that and this. So probably not our last look at this as that work wraps up. But who's the owner of a long-term dashboard for how we're doing?
Well, my working group expires. This one doesn't. So
exactly.
We'll have to figure out that transition.
It ends up over here someplace. So we might want to have a reporting or section on it. So
well, if the commission becomes the owner of that dashboard versus the town.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next step is?
The next step is feedback from the community based on our conversation.
Yep.
I will,
And the
let me take a shot at simplifying these along the line. I'm hearing some agreement to what I was proposing, and I thought that was where you were going, so thank you for that. I'll publish a draft and ask for reactions back through Kristen, so hopefully we can close this out in a couple of things.
Yeah, and then it goes to the DEI?
You're sending it to DEI.
I'll send it out to everyone.
And I mean, if we've got some comments on some of the other sections, we send them to you. Just, I mean, wordsmithing.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I noticed one typo even as I read it again. Okay.
Okay, good.
I'm inclined to take some comments here. I see Tanya's still with us, so let's do that.
Hi, Tanya Gala, 62 Prescott Road. I was just, I wanted just to speak after Mr. McKennett's comments about membership, that I have personal experience with being underrepresented and marginalized minority in my country of birth. And of course here I'm an immigrant, but other than that, I'm pretty much majority looking. And I've been in discussions about issues of this nature and then more in, you know, both domestic and international issues. I think that to have mixed membership or members of the so-called majority in these types of discussions is in fact very important, to have the engagement of everyone, whether they are or consider themselves a member of an underrepresented minority or not, or I mean, these are deep social considerations. We each have ways in which we blend with the so-called majority, and everyone might feel like they are minority in many ways. Then there are the groups, of course. But I just, however, I wouldn't want to downplay the importance of the majority of members being from underrepresented groups. The definition, you know, the difficulty there is really to figure out what are all the underrepresented groups. But because similarly to the fact that when we are picking members to the other committees, we like the planning board or whatever, we go for people who have some experience and have some knowledge, have some kind of depth of perspective in those matters. And I think when the DEI issues are concerned, people who have experienced them either personally or within their communities have a little deeper perspective of what to explore, what to bring to the discussion. So I wouldn't necessarily downplay the membership definition of mostly people from underrepresented groups for that reason. However, it really is important that everyone joins in the discussion for sure. So thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. Is there anybody else that would like to make a comment? Seeing none. So expect a draft to be distributed for reaction, and we do have 3 whole weeks before our next meeting, so there'll be a little bit of
Great. Break.
Okay, I think.
Are we ready?
Stop me if we didn't
Liaison reports.
if we didn't cover some liaison
Yeah.
reports. Yeah.
I wanted to add something, a comment about, in my liaison report, I mentioned the Concord Housing Roundtable, but after that meeting, our new RHSO director, Kristen Gutschard, I hope I said her name properly, sent me an email that with links to some studies done on the impact of housing on services. And I know there's been a lot of discussion around what we could expect would be the impact of housing on services like police, fire, and schools. So I've got a link to some studies done by UMass, Mass APC, and also some financial impact analyses done by our neighboring towns, including Acton, Lincoln, Billerica, and Weston. So if anybody's interested, and I haven't had a chance to read
Can you send
those,
them to me?
I will send those
that'd be
out.
great.
Is there a way, yeah.
Yeah, I can send them out.
Or Kristen
That would
can.
be awesome.
I'll send them to Kristen.
Yeah.
I will send,
Yeah, yeah.
and they come from Kristen
Yeah.
Gishard. And like I said, I've only read 2 of them, and they sound something that I think we can all use.
That's great.
Great.
Great. Thank you. Any other comments or questions about liaison reports?
No.
I just have one comment. I don't have a written report, but I just want to update you. The work on integrating road paving, road maintenance, and roadway safety is continuing and making really good progress. There's a really good effort between the Public Works Commission, Transportation Advisory Committee, Community Development Department, and Public Works Department, and others. And it's coming to the point where the prioritization, how those 2 pieces will fit together in a process, is making really good progress. I would think probably in the first quarter that we would really have something to
That's great.
to roll out.
That's really
I'm not
nice to
promising
hear.
anything
Yeah.
because other people probably roll it out, not me. But I think it's really important. I think the public is really very much focused on all the paving projects and the 27 million that we're investing, and the 2.5 million that's sitting over here for the roadway safety. So I think it's going to work out really well. Everybody's working on the same page on that, so it's great.
It's great. Good to hear.
Good.
Good.
Great.
All right. Okay, so we're going to prepare to go into executive session. And there are a couple of town staff members, including one on Zoom, that I believe will include in the executive session. And I just want to be clear that the motion that Wendy is about to make covers executive session for two pieces of property. One is MCI Concord, and we are also going to be discussing a property at 1440 and 1442 Main Street. I recognize that with a comma instead of an and in the way it was published in the agenda, it might not have been clear to everybody that there were two properties.
Okay, so I'm going to modify this a little bit. I'm going to move to enter into executive session under MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, MCI Concord, the first, and the second, 1440 through 1442 Main Street, if the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body and not return to open session. This requires a roll call vote. So, Mr. Bohm?
Yes.
Mr. McKenna?
Yes.
Ms. Hartman?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Ms. Ravelli, yes.